Welcome to our deep dive into The Secret of Divine Civilization by Abdu'l-Bahá.
Okay.
We're going to be looking at
Sounds good.
not just the book itself,
Right.
but this amazing teaching guide as well that goes along with it.
Yeah.
Now, have you ever wondered how societies can actually modernize and progress
Yeah.
without losing what makes them
Right.
culturally unique?
Yeah.
That's one of the
Big
big things that this book is tackling.
Yeah, that's right.
It was actually written way back in 1875
Wow.
when Persia was really struggling to keep up with
Oh, wow.
all the changes happening in the world.
That's interesting.
Abdu'l-Bahá, who, was the son of the Baha'i faith's founder,
Right.
he wrote this as like a call to reform, offering this blueprint for Persia to kind of reclaim its former glory. Yeah.
It's so fascinating how a book that was written so long ago can still speak to us today. I mean, every country and every community is trying to figure out the same thing.
Yeah, they are. How to move forward without losing
Yeah.
what makes them special.
It's that balance.
Yeah.
And one of the things that really makes The Secret of Divine Civilization so compelling is that it just dives right into these tough questions.
Yeah.
It's not afraid to tackle leadership, justice, the role of education
Oh, yeah.
in shaping a society and where it's going.
It's not pulling any punches.
No, it doesn't hold back.
Okay, so let's dive into the book.
Okay.
It starts with this really powerful idea about human potential.
Okay.
This quote, heavenly power
Yeah.
that it says is inside each of us.
Yes.
It even says that this power makes our world
Right.
the envy of the worlds of light.
I love that.
Now, I don't know about you,
It's a powerful image.
but that imagery really struck me.
Yeah.
What do you make of it?
It's such a beautiful way of describing that we are not just these physical beings, that we're also spiritual beings.
Right?
We have this incredible capacity for progress.
Yeah.
For growing intellectually and morally.
And that's what really makes us different.
Sets us apart.
Yeah, it sets us apart.
It's like having this spark of the divine inside us, and education is the fuel that helps it grow.
Yeah.
The book places a huge amount of emphasis on knowledge and learning
Right.
as the foundation for not just individual advancement, but societal advancement.
Absolutely. And think about it this way.
Yeah.
Imagine a seed
Okay.
that has the potential to become this massive tree. But that seed
Needs the right environment.
needs fertile soil,
Needs to be taken care of.
sunlight, water to really thrive.
Yeah.
In the same way, our capacity for progress that's innate within us
Right.
needs the nourishment of education to blossom.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And it's not just any kind of education.
Yeah.
The Secret of Divine Civilization really talks about an education that cultivates both our minds
That's right.
and our hearts.
Both.
It's about developing intellect
Yes.
and your moral compass together.
Yeah, side by side. What I found really intriguing was how it connects this back to Persia's history.
Yeah, you're right. It reminds us that Persia was once this incredible center of learning and innovation,
Wow.
known all over for its contributions to science, art, governance.
So it's like Abdu'l-Bahá is calling for...
It's like he's calling
Not
for a
really
return to those glory days, but with a vision that goes beyond just restoring what was.
So it's not just about
Yeah.
clinging to tradition.
It's not just
That's
about
right.
clinging to the past, no. It's about realizing that real progress has to involve learning from what's come before, adapting to what's happening now,
Right.
and creating a future where knowledge and being a good person go hand in hand.
This whole idea of balancing progress and tradition,
Yeah.
it's something we still deal with today, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's this tension that's playing out on a global scale as societies are dealing with globalization, technology, and all the cultural shifts that come with that.
But even with this big emphasis on education and human potential,
Okay.
the book isn't afraid to critique what was going on in Persia at the time.
No, it's not.
It talks about corruption,
Yeah.
arbitrary rule, and what it calls clerical interference.
Right.
I have to say, that part really got my attention.
I can see why.
It's not every day
Yeah.
that you see a religious figure
Yeah.
advocating for
For what we might call,
separation of church and state, so to speak.
right, the separation of powers.
Right.
But what's fascinating is how the book puts this issue
Yeah.
into this larger conversation about justice and governing well.
Okay.
It argues that for a society to really do well, decisions need to be made through
Through what?
what's called informed consultation,
Okay.
where everyone has a say.
Everyone gets to speak.
Everyone has a voice. And
That's-
leadership
It's based on.
is about wisdom, not just power.
So it's not about silencing religious voices,
Right.
but making sure they
They don't overstep.
don't overstep their bounds.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's about creating a system of government that is
That's fair.
fair, treats everyone equally,
Yeah.
and is based on principles of justice.
And the book's saying that.
And the book really emphasizes that when religious authority gets
Yeah.
all mixed up with political power,
Right.
it can lead to decline.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it even points to some specific events in history,
Like what?
like the Gulistan and Turkmenchai treaties,
Oh, right.
as examples of how weak governance
Yeah.
led to Persia losing territory and influence.
These treaties, signed in 1813 and 1828,
Right.
were a major turning point.
Yeah, they were.
The book's saying that these losses weren't just because of outside pressures,
You're right.
but also internal weaknesses.
Internal weaknesses for sure.
Okay, so the book's being very bold
Yeah, it's bold in its critique.
in its critique.
It's not about placing blame.
Yeah.
It's about acknowledging mistakes and then learning from them. The message is pretty clear. If Persia wants to get back to where it was, it needs to reform its government,
Get rid of.
root out corruption,
Okay.
and empower people through education and justice.
Wow, that's powerful.
It is.
Especially for a book written
Yeah.
over a century ago.
Over a century ago.
It makes you think about what
Makes you wonder.
Abdu'l-Bahá would say about all the things we're facing now.
I know, it's a great question to ponder.
Yeah.
But one thing's for sure. The secret of divine civilization reminds us that the search for a society
That's fair.
and where everyone prospers
Right.
is something we've always been after.
Yeah.
It requires us to understand the past, deal with the present,
And look to the future.
and have a vision for the future.
Okay, so we've kind of explored the context.
Yeah.
We've looked at this vision of human potential and also the book's critique of Persia's government.
Right.
Where do we go next?
Well, the book doesn't just critique, it offers solutions. And what's really interesting is it looks to a pretty unexpected source for inspiration.
Oh, really? What's that?
Europe's Renaissance.
Okay, now that is interesting.
Yeah.
Tell me more about this connection to Europe.
We'll dive into that right after this.
Yeah.
So we were talking about the secret of divine civilization and its inspiration from Europe's Renaissance.
Right.
It might seem kind of surprising,
Yeah, at first glance.
given the whole historical context.
Yeah.
But the book actually looks at the Renaissance
Okay.
as like this time of huge progress.
So Europe went through this
We're-
like incredible transformation.
Yeah.
They rediscovered all that classical knowledge. They pushed the boundaries of art and science.
Totally.
But didn't they also have their own set of problems and conflicts?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh.
The Renaissance was no utopia.
Right.
But what's interesting is how Abdu'l-Bahá
Yeah.
really highlights the importance of balance.
Okay.
He's arguing that while Europe did great in material progress, they sometimes kind of forgot about the moral and spiritual side of things.
So it's not enough to just build big cathedrals and invent new technology.
Exactly.
Need some ethics
You need a strong ethical foundation
to make it all work.
to support all that advancement.
Right, and this is where that teaching guide is really helpful.
Yes.
It helps us actually apply these ideas.
It does.
Like there's this one activity
Oh, yeah.
where you imagine you're building a society from scratch.
Love it.
Oh, I love thought experiments like that.
Me too.
So if you were in charge, what would your ideal society look like?
Well, that's what's so great about it. There's
Yeah.
no right or wrong answer.
Right.
It's all about getting people talking and thinking critically about what really matters.
So like
Like, what kind of education system would you have?
right, what would be important?
How would you make sure everyone's treated fairly and equally?
Yeah.
What about the role of religion?
Those are some big questions.
Big questions.
And speaking of big questions, the book also talks about informed consultation
Yes.
as this key part of good governance.
It is.
What exactly does that look like?
Okay, so
Okay.
imagine a community's got a tough decision to make.
Okay.
Instead of just having a leader call all the shots
Yeah.
or turning it into a popularity contest,
Right.
everyone comes together,
Okay.
no matter who they are.
Everyone has a voice.
Everyone shares their thoughts.
Oh,
They listen to each other.
Right.
They weigh the pros and cons.
So it's not
and
just
come
about
up with a decision.
voicing opinions.
Not just about that, no.
Okay.
It's about really thinking things through together.
So people come prepared.
Yeah, people come prepared.
They've studied the issues.
Talk to experts.
They've thought about what might happen.
They've thought about the consequences.
It's not just a free-for-all.
No.
There's structure and process.
Yeah.
A commitment to making decisions that are thought out and just...
Exactly. And this idea of consultation, it doesn't just apply to the government. It's for all levels of society.
So like families...
Families making decisions. Businesses dealing with tough situations.
It sounds a lot like what we try to do here on The Deep Dive.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
We bring together different views. We explore ideas.
Yeah.
We encourage you, the listener, to be a part of it.
Exactly. And just like with informed consultation,
Right.
the more we all learn, the more we question,
Yeah.
the closer we get to the truth.
And sometimes that truth is found in unexpected places.
It is.
Like who knew that a book written in 19th century Persia would be inspired by the European Renaissance?
It shows how some truths are universal.
Yeah.
Wanting knowledge, seeking justice,
Right.
wanting a society where everyone can thrive.
These are things that...
These things go beyond time and place.
Absolutely.
Right.
But it's not always easy to bring those things into the world we live in.
No, it's not.
The book even says there will be roadblocks and even conflicts.
It does.
And that's where that teaching guide comes in.
It does, yeah.
Gives us tools.
It gives us tools
to deal with those things.
Yeah, and exercises to help us along the way.
Like what kind of exercises?
Well, for example, there's a section that encourages us to look into the Golestan and Turkmenchay treaties.
Oh, right, the ones that led to Persia losing all that territory. It's like a cautionary tale showing how even great civilizations can fall.
They can.
So by looking at what happened back then, we can learn about weak governance.
The importance of unity.
And the need to always protect justice and equality.
That's right.
Sounds like a pretty big research project.
It can be, but it's also really rewarding. The teaching guide doesn't just give you facts to memorize.
Right.
It makes you think critically.
So it's not just about learning
about how the past connects to what's happening now.
From the past.
And helps you draw your own conclusions.
It's about using those lessons
to
make a better future.
Exactly. And that's the real power of The Secret of Divine Civilization.
Wow.
It's not just a book to be read.
It's a call.
It's a call to action.
To make a change.
To become agents of change.
In our communities and the world.
In our communities and in the world at large.
So it's about taking those big ideas like justice, education, spiritual growth, and turning them into action.
Exactly. And that takes work, commitment,
right,
and being willing to work with others.
And the book's telling us we're not alone in this.
It is.
We have each other.
We do.
We have the wisdom of the past, and we have this potential inside us.
We do.
To create a world where everyone thrives.
A powerful message of hope.
It is.
But that future doesn't just happen.
Right.
It takes conscious effort from all of us.
Both individually. And as a group.
And collectively.
And one of the most important things we can do is to reflect on ourselves.
The teaching guide really stresses this.
It does.
It encourages us to really examine our own beliefs.
What we think.
Our values, to question what we assume is true, and to really wrestle with these big questions about
how we want to live
our lives
and how we want to shape the world.
It's about going beyond just taking in information.
Yes.
The teaching guide asks questions like, what role does education play in dealing with today's problems?
Yeah.
What traditions should we keep as we make changes?
Big questions.
Those are some deep questions.
They are.
And I bet everyone listening has different answers.
Yeah. They probably do.
It's like we're all on this journey together.
We are.
Trying to figure out how to create a world that's fair and just.
And spiritually fulfilling.
And where everyone has what they need.
And that journey, it starts with each of us.
It does.
With the choices we make.
Right.
With the things we do. The conversations we have.
It's about realizing we're not just watching history happen.
We're part of it.
We're shaping the future.
That's a powerful thought.
It is.
But when we talk about these big ideas and all the problems in the world.
Yeah.
It's easy to feel overwhelmed.
It is.
So where do we even begin?
That's a great question. And I think the teaching guide actually gives us some advice.
Okay.
It tells us to start small.
Okay, so not trying to solve every problem at once.
Yeah.
Maybe focus on making a difference.
Exactly.
In our own communities and families.
In our own lives.
Right.
The teaching guide asks us to think about what can I do right now,
right here, right now,
to live out these principles of justice, unity, and progress.
like volunteering at a school,
Volunteer.
having that tough conversation with someone we love,
Important but tough.
or just trying to be more kind and caring.
What strikes me about The Secret of Divine Civilization and this teaching guide is that they don't just tell us what to do.
They want us to be a part of this
They invite us to really be a part of it.
process of learning and growing.
It's not about blindly following rules.
Yeah.
It's about thinking critically, questioning, discovering.
Lifelong journey.
And that can last a lifetime.
And speaking of lifelong journeys, I think it's time to wrap up this part
Sounds good.
of our deep dive.
Right.
But before we do,
Yeah.
what stood out to you
Me.
as the most important takeaway from all this?
You know what really hit home for me is this idea that real progress
Okay.
needs a balance between material stuff
Yeah.
and spiritual growth.
So it's not enough to just focus on.
It's not enough to just focus on the economy or technology.
Right. You got to build a society that values.
We have to build a society that values being good,
Yeah.
compassion, and doing the right thing.
It's like that saying, money can't buy happiness.
Or maybe technology can't buy a just and thriving society.
Exactly.
It's about understanding that being truly prosperous means having both material well-being and spiritual fulfillment.
That's a message we really need,
And that message,
especially in our world today.
it's more important now than ever.
It's like we got to remember to take care of our souls.
Yes.
Alongside our bank accounts and our fancy gadgets.
And that takes real effort,
It does.
both from each of us and from all of us together.
We need to create those spaces
We do.
for reflection and connection
Yeah.
and for building those good qualities.
Like kindness and generosity.
Yeah, and empathy.
We're not just consumers, you know?
Right. Or just,
Or cogs in a machine.
yeah, cogs in a machine.
We are human beings
With a value.
with inherent dignity and worth.
That should affect everything.
It should.
From how we run our governments
Yeah.
to how we treat each other every day.
So it's about making a world where everyone feels seen and heard.
And valued.
A world where we help each other out instead of competing.
And where we all work together
And work together.
to solve the problems we're facing.
That's the kind of world we want.
And the secret of divine civilization
It does.
gives us a way to get there.
It reminds us that we have the power
We do.
to make the world we want. But it takes effort
It takes work
and being open to
and a willingness
to embrace that.
to embrace that shared humanity.
It's a call to action.
It is.
It's like a challenge to step up,
to step up and be the change.
to be the change we want to see.
I think that's a good place to stop.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up
Okay.
this deep dive into the secret of divine civilization,
Yeah.
I want to leave you with something to think about.
Okay.
Imagine you could design a society
Right.
that got that balance right
Between.
between material progress
Okay.
and moral and spiritual development.
What would it look like?
That's for you to think about.
It reminds us that building a better world
Yes.
isn't just for politicians.
It's not for all of us.
And the secret of divine civilization
Mm.
and that teaching guide give us so much to help us along the way.
So to everyone listening,
Yes.
we encourage you to check out these materials and explore these ideas. You might be surprised by what you find.
You never know.
Thanks for joining us
It's been a pleasure.
for this deep dive.
Until next time.
Keep on learning.